We will call the meeting to order, and thank you for your indulgence in the late start. But welcome to all of you, either in chambers here or on the phone. This is the regular meeting of Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West, held in Council Chambers, 216 Main Street West, Swan River, Manitoba, this 13th day of October 2020 at 7:17 p.m. Present, myself, Deputy Reeve Blosha, Councillors Foster, Gade, Wills, Kushniryk, and Pierrepont, as well as the ACAO Finance Officer, James Webb. We have two delegations tonight, one at 7. It was supposed to be at 7. It will be immediately here or in a minute or two. And then another one following that one. We would ask that the individuals with the delegations, because of the longer agenda and a late start, to observe the 15-minute time limit. And we will then get out of here before our cars all turn into pumpkins. Moved by Councillor Foster, second by Councillor Pierrepont, resolved that the agenda for the regular meeting of Council held this 13th day of October 2020 shall be adopted as circulated. Does anyone have?
Okay, so we can add a 9.4 and call it something like council discussion. And also 13.1 if we can put really add concerns on that one. Capture the second part.
What was the second one, Councillor Gade?
13.1, just add and concerns. We'll talk about both parts of it.
And what was 9.4?
Council discussion.
Oh,
That's for an in-camera discussion. You're talking now 13.1, right?
13.1 is, yeah, the 9.4 will be open.
Under 13.5, we just got bylaw information.
Okay, any other changes, additions, deletions?
That 13.3 is,
Yes. Yeah, it's a request, but it can be a concern as well.
okay.
Yep.
Okay, we have changed it from circulated to as amended. Any further discussion? Not all in favor? It's carried. Moved by Councillor Foster, second by Councillor Blosha, resolved that the minutes for the regular meeting and public hearings 1 and 2 of the Council for the Municipality of Swan Valley West, held on September 22nd, 2020, shall be adopted as circulated. Questions, comments, errors, or omissions? Not all in favor? It's carried. Okay, we will now entertain the first delegation. Time is 7:20. We have until 7:35 for presentation and discussion or questions.
Mention that.
She's not in yet.
Yes, she is.
Tammela Bobick? Tammela, are you on the line?
Hilbert, are you there?
Yes, we are.
yeah.
So Tammela's not attending tonight?
No, it's supposed to be me, Shannon.
Shannon, perfect, okay.
Okay, Shannon, go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to speak for about 5 minutes or so, and then Hilbert's going to talk for the rest of the time. So we're just going to split up our time, so we do stay within the time limit.
Okay.
I dropped off today copies of letters of complaint regarding in relation to Bylaw 2369, the animal control bylaw. we're having issues here, and I think council should know this, as people have been complaining for months now regarding the excessive barking, loose dogs, a dangerous dog, and it seems to me that there seems to be an uneven application of the bylaws. I mean, when there was an issue or a complaint, let's say, about the neighbor's bin, that was acted on super quick. And I understand or have been told that possibly some warnings and or fines had been issued, but apparently not to the household at issue, because the excessive barking is continuous. I mean, even last night at 1:30 in the morning, being woken up by excessive barking. Now, you're just going to have to indulge me for just a second. I want you all to understand what it is we're dealing with and have been dealing with for months. And this isn't just at 4 in the afternoon or 7 p.m. or 8 a.m. This is all day, all night, almost constantly. We have little periods of quiet, but because this particular area or street is really busy with out-of-town traffic coming in and out and in and out and in and out and visiting this particular property, these dogs bark constantly. So if you could just indulge me for 30 seconds. That recording is from my house, and I'm like a block away. This is constant. Now, there's a few issues here that we have. First, the inaction of the animal control officer. I don't know if he's maybe scared to go down to this particular house, but he can certainly ask for police escort if he is. By reputation, possibly he is. We have people in town, and although I dropped off those letters, those aren't the only people complaining. People are terrified to make complaints. In the bylaw, you have to identify yourself, your address, and your phone number. And people are scared. They're not only scared of repercussions from the particular household, and I'm going to say plural because there's a couple, at issue, but also from the council. They're worried about repercussions from council or members of council because they may be friends or, with somebody who happens to have a loose dog or what have you. The issue with the excessive barking is it's wearing thin when our health, because we can't sleep, because we can't work right. There's just down the street from me, there's another resident here who's a truck driver, and he's being woken up at all hours of the night. How safe is that for him? Part of the problem, too, with the excessive barking is that these dogs, at least one, is not a pet. The dog is there just to alert the residents that somebody has driven up there or is near their property. It's tied to a tree 24/7, and it's been there tied to the tree, except when it escaped and chased a horse down, except for those times when it escapes and acts aggressively. It's been tied to that tree for, I think, about 18 months, which is absolutely against the bylaws. I believe bylaw 444 of the bylaw, paragraph 4. No person may cause an animal to be hitched, tied, or fastened to a fixed object as a primary means of confinement for an extended period of time. That dog is constantly there. It howls all night, every time somebody drives up there. Winter's coming. It's going to get louder because it's cold weather. The noise travels even worse. The other issue is that paragraph 6 No owner shall suffer, permit, or allow for any reason to have his animal bark, howl, excessively, or in any other manner disturb the quiet of any person. I have a dog, and you can see in another letter, another neighbor of ours wrote about how they can't put their dog out because then their dog starts barking. I have the same problem. I have a small dog, and so when these dogs are barking, my dog will start barking. And I won't allow that. I will bring her in immediately as soon as she's barking, which means she gets very little time outside, just on her own, and she's properly fastened to a lead. That's the proper length. She's supposed to be able to enjoy herself at times, and she can't. And never mind, I can't even let her out there and come in the house. I have to sit there and watch because the loose dogs or this aggressive dog, the loose dogs have come on our yard and scared her, and she's on a leash. She's properly fastened as she should be in a yard when she's outside, and she has nowhere to go. She's trapped. So now I'm scared my dog is going to be attacked by another loose dog or an aggressive dog or this husky that is not socialized. These dogs are not socialized for animals or people, at least not us people. Other than that, I would like something to be done by that, because a dangerous dog, part of Para 2 defines it as a dog that's kept for the purpose of security or protection. This dog is not a pet. You can't tell me somebody has a pet tied to a tree 24/7. It doesn't have the proper, like it's supposed to have, like if they want to keep a dog outside, fine, there's outdoor dogs. It is a husky, but then have a proper kennel so it's not tied to a fixed object. It's hurtful to the dog, and it's dangerous, and I'm going to, other things we've been told about the loose dogs have been, shoot the dog or catch the dog. We can't catch the dog. As per the bylaw, the only time we can catch a dog, and that is, I think, paragraph 20, is if it's in our yard, and then we have to immediately notify you guys. I don't know what we're supposed to do with it, and why would I try and catch a dog that might attack me? And I have no protection against liability. Only the animal control officer, council members, pound keepers, they are protected by liability. It shouldn't be my responsibility to apprehend a dog. I'm going to yield the rest of my time to Hilbert.
Well, my deal in this is we had an incident in our yard where there was 4 dogs running at large with 2 girls who had 2 other dogs on a leash. And my wife asked them to get their dogs out of the yard, and they told her they're not her dogs. So she took a broom and chased them out of the yard, hit one dog, and she was called a bunch of derogatory names by these young ladies. So she had to go into work the next day. She works in the school division. She had to tell her bosses about this, and she cannot have contact with those people when they come into school. So here we are with barking dogs and dogs roaming at large, and it's encroaching into her work life, and it affects her work. So my whole thing in this is I want her never have to deal with anything like this where it affects her work and her life outside. And that is about all I have to say on the matter. Thank you.
So basically we're asking that these bylaws be enforced because they haven't been. That dog needs to be taken care of, and I'm rehomed or taken inside or properly cared for, but not tied to a tree. We need this to stop. This is. We feel like you guys don't care about Kenville. That's what we're left with. That we're just not cared about. Who cares? It's just little Kenville. That's pretty much. I'm done.
If that is the end of your presentation, I will give council members a chance to ask a question of you if they so desire. We have a couple minutes left.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Hilbert Shannon, it's Bill Gade. I want to thank you both for appearing tonight, bringing the matter to our attention.
Just questions, please.
It's certainly,
Just questions?
phrasing a question.
Good, let's get to it.
It certainly seems like you've been at this for a while, and I'm not able to say much other than questions. So my first question would be, do you feel this council has done anything for you, even though this has been discussed since I joined council? Have you seen any action from this council to enforce this bylaw at all?
I have, like, as far as the barking noise, no. And nobody calls us back to say, hey, you know, we've done this or that. Like I said, I heard a rumor that maybe some warnings were, and fines are given out. There was a letter sent out June 3rd about excessive barking, dogs loose, but really nothing's changed. I mean, you can send out all the letters you want, but until you do something.
And no, there has been no response or anything back. I spoke to James Webb for probably 10 minutes one day at the end of my driveway, and all the time we were there, the same barking was going on, and no, nothing's changed.
As you know, I can only ask questions, so my second question would be, if you think back to about a year ago, is the problem getting worse, or is it staying the same, or getting better?
If you don't do anything, nothing gets better.
So, just to clarify, you would say it's not getting better, or is it getting worse?
I would say, if anything, and this is subjective, it feels worse because nothing's being done, because it's just so on and never ending. And, you know, so it grinds at you and grinds at you.
My final question, because I know we have to move on here to other members and other business. I know there was a discussion of having a community meeting about this issue that I was hoping to attend. Is there still such concept going on, or with COVID, is it more just these written complaints for now?
Sorry, I couldn't hear that.
There was discussion a month or two ago about having a community meeting about this. I know COVID has caused a lot of concerns, so I'm curious if there's still a meeting planned, or if it's just the written complaints coming tonight because of COVID.
It's just a written complaint because of COVID. We felt we were in the orange for a bit there. So at this point, it's just the complaint right now. But yeah, COVID is definitely interfering.
Thank you for answering my questions.
Hilbert,
You're welcome.
Darryl Pierrepont. You said that Sheila chased 4 dogs out of your yard.
Yes,
Do you know if they were all from the same place, or were they different owners?
I have no idea, Darryl, at the time, because I was not at home.
Okay. But they were all large dogs?
Again, I don't know.
Okay.
2 on the leash were pups, you said, not full grown, but the other ones I have no idea.
It's not always the size of the dog. There's a pug that belongs to Mr. Bruce Thompson, and it's pretty aggressive little dog. That's the one that will come in my yard the most often after my dog. Never mind peeing all over my deck, and it's ridiculous. So it's not always the size. That little pug is pretty aggressive.
Yeah, no, I understand that.
Time has elapsed, so again, we want to thank both of you. I can assure you that the municipality has not just been sitting doing nothing. The animal control officer has put in considerable amount of time, especially in the last month, and some small victories have occurred, but it is a problem not at all like the bin that you referred to earlier. This is people, this is animals, people who perhaps are not as responsible as they should be in every case with their animals. But we will continue to try to bring some more peace to the community of Kenville, and you can keep us in your good wishes in that regard. So again, thank you very much.
Can we get a date as to when we're going to hear back on what is being done about the excessive barking?
I don't know if we can
Timeline.
get into specifics or not, can we?
And the dangerous dog, the husky that's tied up, there certainly should be a timetable on when that's going to be taken care of.
Yeah, the dangerous dog, we're going to, I think, talk about taking a different avenue of approach for that one.
Fine,
But
fine.
the assistant CAO says that contact him in a month and he will have an update for you.
So 1 month?
Yep.
Okay,
Thank you again.
thank you.
Okay, the next delegation is Lisa Lintick, the Kennel Permit. It is now 22 minutes to, so you have until 7 minutes to with presentation and discussion.
Hey, well, I didn't really prepare for a presentation. I believe we were just called here today to discuss the opening of the kennel permits and,
Public hearing?
It's a public hearing.
yeah.
There's-
Oh, okay.
This is just
Very
written,
interesting.
this is just written.
Okay, so this should not then have been a delegation per se.
No, it's a public hearing.
Yeah, that was the confusion for the delay, sorry about that. That was, I learned this in the last 15 minutes. The hard way.
No, that's all right, we're here, no one is perfect, so we all have learning
Jeez,
to
that's
be done.
disappointing.
And it continues our entire lifetime. So we have a resolution moved by Councillor Gade, second by Councillor Foster, resolved that we do hereby adjourn the regular meeting of council at 7:39 PM to open the following public hearing. It's a conditional use application and kennel permit application for DESC Northeast 32, 34, 28W, R66850. Be it further resolved that we shall reconvene the regular meeting of council immediately following the adjournment of said public hearing. All in favor? That's carried. This is a public hearing held by the Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West in Council Chambers, 216 Main Street West, Swan River, Manitoba, this 13th day of September 2020 at 7:39 PM. For the purpose of an application for a conditional use and a kennel permit at the location known as DESC Northeast 1/4 32 34 28 WPM. Present, myself, Deputy Reeve Blosha, Councillors Foster, Gade, Wills, Pierrepont, and Kushniryk, as well as FO/ACAO James Webb, and from the newspaper Jeremy Bergen. Moved by Councillor Pierrepont, second by Councillor Blosha, resolved that the Council for the Municipality of Swan Valley West shall hereby call to order the public hearing regarding the conditional use application and kennel permit application on the property known as DESC Northeast 32 34 28W R66850 this 13th day of October at 7:40 PM. All in favor? It's carried. Okay, do you have anything to say in regard to your application?
No, just waiting, hoping you guys are gonna agree.
Planning and construction are going along as all complete now?
Not yet, but pretty close. We're working on outside fencing this weekend. If it doesn't freeze, hopefully we can maybe get it done this year, but we do have an outdoor enclosure for the time being, for the winter time. If we do open up the inside, for dogs to go out and have exercise and stuff like that, it's just the whole thing isn't complete yet. The inside is about, I'd say, 95% done. If anybody would like to, we can probably come check it out. We're looking good.
Okay, any council members have any questions?
I'm just curious, when this was here before, because we're doing conditional use tonight and the kennel permit, What did we do last time?
We just set the date for the public hearing.
Further back.
Variance.
Is there anyone on the telephone or in person who wishes to speak against this application? Anyone opposed? Any present or on the telephone who are opposed? If not, do you have something to close with?
Put the rubber stamp on her voice.
Do you take
2
husbands?
years of
Yeah. Can you fit husbands in those kennels?
Well, we're pleased to see that your plans are almost completed, and we wish you the best of luck in the venture.
Well, thanks. We're happy to bring new service to the valley and look forward to babysitting for everybody. I know
As
it's
we
a little
mentioned-
definitely needed here. There's lots of people for medical appointments and holidays.
As was mentioned last time, it is a service that
Yeah,
currently is not available, so.
yeah.
And with the one closing just north of us, we've been getting inundated with phone calls from the pond, Glen Pond, who use the service just north. And with that service no longer available, it's gonna be busy.
So plan for an expansion then. Get your application in early.
See you guys in 5 years.
If he doesn't quit.
Okay, if there's nothing further, moved by Councillor Will, second by Councillor Kushniryk. Whereas the Council for the Municipality of Swan Valley West has received an application for a conditional use order and kennel permit on the property known as DESC Northeast 1/4 32/34/28 to allow for a boarding facility for pets and a grooming business within the AG Agricultural General Zone in an area of the Municipality of Swan Valley West and zoning bylaw number 3283-04 and the Animal Control Bylaw 235404. Whereas notice of the public hearing was posted and delivered to adjacent landowners in accordance with the Planning Act, and the municipality has not received any objections with respect to said application. Therefore be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West does hereby approve the aforementioned conditional use as per the application dated. There's no date.
Call it the first
First of when?
October.
The application dated October 1st and shall issue conditional use order number 2020-04. Be it further resolved that the Reeve or Deputy Reeve shall be authorized to sign said order on behalf of the municipality. Questions, comments? If not, all in favor? That's carried. Moved by Councillor Pierrepont, seconded by Councillor Gade. Resolved that the public hearing shall now adjourn at 7:46 p.m. All in favor? That is carried. Moved by Councillor Foster, seconded by Councillor Blosha. Resolved that the regular meeting of the Council for the Municipality of Swan Valley West shall now reopen at 7:46 p.m. to proceed with the regular business of council. All in favor? That is carried. Okay, we will move to 7.1. Law Enforcement Officer Report for September 2020. It's in the form of a resolution. It's moved by Councillor Blosha, second by Councillor Pierrepont.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Yeah.
Thank you, and good evening.
Yeah. Good luck.
Resolved that the Bylaw Enforcement Officer's Report for September 2020 shall be received by the Council for the Municipality of Swan Valley West. Questions or comments on that?
Concerns. We met and we discussed this at our last meeting, council. And council was, I thought, very clear on how we were moving forward with bylaw enforcement. Specifically with enforcement of unsightly property and grass. And yet, my recollection of that decision that was made, it wasn't passed by resolution, it was certainly made by this council. And yet on the 28th, I see there's a billing for mowing in Durham. That date corresponds to a date where we have that much already filed with regard to property damage from somebody mowing in Durban on unauthorized property. When I asked the questions at the time, I was assured the RM had absolutely nothing to do with mowing in Durban. However, when I find this sheet, I find that we did indeed have something to do with mowing in Durban on the same date that the property damage is alleged to occur. So I'm curious why we would be paying to supervise mowing in Durban when this council chose not to mow property in Durban. Why would we be printing a map, what we were doing, and why is it our problem? It seems like we're involved in something we decided not to be involved in.
It's my understanding that no orders were issued from the municipality to mow or do anything in regard to unsightly properties, and that this was fulfilling requests of individual residences to the individual who drew the map. I agree that you should not be billing the municipality for time spent on individuals wishing to have their yard mowed and who live elsewhere for the most part, I believe. They're non-resident landowners. There will probably be an opportunity later tonight to discuss this with the individual in camera, and it should be taken up then, I would suggest.
How would people table this until we have that discussion?
Tabling the, accepting the report,
Right,
that can be done, sure.
because then we can discuss it with him.
Can be done later.
Yeah, and we can pass it later.
Resolution.
We could pass the, we could
Maybe
pass
should've
it
been-
and then
Maybe
after,
should've been
dis-
that way in the first place.
if we, for the most part, there's 99% all right, we could pass this, and if discussions come up later, we
I
can,
wasn't at the meeting, but there's one on the 23rd too that reviews the same thing.
Excuse me.
There, it's hard to say whether there was time charged for speaking with the.
I was charged 2 hours.
Well, there were two things that he did, right? He was in the
Yeah.
office. And again, these things can be clarified. We don't have to speculate. We can get it right from,
I'd rather not speculate, I'd rather hear
Exactly.
from him.
okay, we can table this till after in camera, or just postpone it till after in camera.
okay.
Okay, rural and urban animal report for September 2020. Moved by Councillor Wills, second by Councillor Pierrepont, resolved that the following animal control reports shall be received by the Council for the Municipality of Swan Valley West. The Rural Animal Control Officer's report for the month of September 2020 and the Urban Animal Control Officer's report for the month of September 2020. Be it further resolved that payments for the above services shall be approved as submitted. Questions or comments there?
The urban one, I don't have questions or comments on. The rural one, I certainly do. I understand the concerns in Kenville. They're not new. We heard them well explained tonight. We have written details of them well explained. Unfortunately, it's not the first time we're hearing those concerns. It's been discussed here before. I have discussed them here before. I have discussed some of those exact concerns and the exact parts of the bylaw that aren't being enforced. And that goes back well before September 1st. When I look at this report, we're proposing to spend $1,443, the vast majority of which is entitled Drove Around Kenville. What I don't see on here, like I see on the urban report, is any action being taken to solve the concerns. I do see one line that says, meet in Kenville, we'll talk about dogs. What they could do is go to office and write a letter. Or presumably they could complain to the animal control bylaw officer, or animal control officer like they were doing when they met with him, and action would be taken. I expressed largely that this is $1,400 of wasted money. We could have used this money to enforce that bylaw in some way, shape, or form. We don't seem to be accomplishing anything here. Driving around Kenville every second day all month long has done nothing to solve the problem, as we heard tonight. So I would like to see us stop doing that and get some actual enforcement. Because $1,400 could have seized the dangerous dog in Kenville and had it dealt with. And instead, all we accomplished was driving around. So I'm not happy with this at all.
I have expressed concern about the amount of expenditure as well, and the apparent lack of success. But again, we are dealing with an employee, and I think it might be appropriate to get into more detailed discussion out of the public eye, so as not to slander or unduly impinge upon an individual.
We had to take, can I say something?
Yep.
We had to take action because there was concerns in Kenville. And this was the first step that this is the first avenue that we pursued. We asked to collect data, to find out what we needed to do, where the problems were. And although you don't see results, we weren't expecting that the problem would be necessarily solved in the first week or two, month. It takes time to figure out what is going on, talk to the different people. It has brought a lot of conversations forward. It's opened up dialogue, and we hope to continue to pursue it to solve that problem. Not one of us would want the situation that Kenville's facing at this time, but this is only the first step. We needed to start somewhere.
So, respectfully, we've known about the problems since the day I joined council. If this really is the first step, we're 2 years late.
Well, let's just back. Oh, go ahead.
I'd like to request a recorded vote on this.
Yes, and you were right. It is not a new problem, but as far as the current time and day, this is where we started.
Any further comments?
One question. What did you hope to gain by doing this?
Finding out where the specific problem is, talking to people, and trying to solve as not maybe the specific issue that is brought up this evening, but if there was other outliers that we could look at to see if there was what was causing it, or is there, you know, spin-offs from it. And we've heard tonight that, you know, one dog barking, the whole choir starts. And, you know, we have seen some progress, small steps, but we haven't solved the root of the problem, and that's what we found.
Okay, well, the rest I have, I think should probably be in camera. So.
That's what I was going to suggest, that we
Yeah.
again postpone this resolution until after in-camera discussion, and then we can delve into it in a very intense manner. Seven point three is a subdivision application on the northwest quarter section, 29, 34, 27. Moved by Councillor Kushniryk, second by Councillor Foster. Whereas the owners of part of northwest 1/4 section 29, 34, 27 WPM have made an application to subdivide their property, and whereas the proposed yard site is greater than the 10-acre maximum, a variance will be required. And whereas the Council for the Municipality of Swan Valley West has reviewed said application, along with the conditional approval letter received from Community and Regional Planning dated September 15th, 2020, and have no objections to the aforementioned subdivision. Therefore be it resolved that we do hereby approve the minor subdivision of the aforementioned property, provided all conditions and requirements set out in said letter from the Province of Manitoba Community and Regional Planning Branch are met. Questions? Comments?
I just wanted to pass along thanks to the applicant. My one concern was the driveway. They certainly have found a way to share that, and good for them. That saves the municipality concern having to build separate access. So I appreciate they're doing that.
Okay, any further comment or question? If not, all in favor? That's carried. Moved by Councillor Foster, seconded by Councillor Gade. Whereas the members of Council for the Municipality of Swan Valley West have reviewed and approved the following new working alone policy recommended by the Safety Committee as follows. Working alone policy. The Municipality of Swan Valley West asks for the safety requirements to be met as follows. Public Works. Please check at regular intervals /day of your location and working conditions as instructed from your supervisor. Landfill sites. Please check at regular intervals /throughout the day of your location and working conditions as instructed from your supervisor. Employees working alone are reminded to take absolutely no risks. If unfamiliar with consequences of operating equipment, do not experiment, especially while working alone. If unable to perform a certain duty due to weather conditions, inexperience, illness, nature of the work requested, inappropriate machinery, or mechanical failure, an employee should inform the supervisor immediately and not attempt to reach a compromise on their own. In the case of an emergency, an employee is expected to ensure that their personal safety first, then request immediately for help. Describe the situation or hazard, your exact location, and whether medical, police, or fire response is required. In extreme emergencies, call 911 and give appropriate information. Before leaving for a job site, an employee who will be working alone should use a checkoff list system to ensure that they are properly prepared and equipped to work alone, such as knowledgeable of the work required, familiarity with the machine, equipment to be used, ability to perform the required work, someone is aware of where you will be working and what you will be doing and when to expect your return, check that equipment to be used has been serviced and is operable, all personal protective equipment required to perform the job safely is being worn or is readily accessible once the job site is reached. Be sure a charged fire extinguisher and first aid kit is available at the job site and be aware of its usage, location, and how to activate it. Always have phone numbers available in case of an emergency. Therefore, be it resolved that we do hereby adopt said policy and shall add or delete policies from time to time as may be deemed appropriate by the majority vote of council. Questions or comments?
So, I know this is the third time this has come here. And it's certainly not the first time I've spoken to it. And it went back to committee once for review, which I appreciate. This is an example of a policy for Swan Valley West. This is what we're presented again tonight. This does not conform to Swan Valley West policies. It needs a date, it needs a number, it needs a number of pages, it needs to be on our form. This is the third time I've mentioned making it look like a policy. The resolution as written is absurd. The resolution should say, we approve the following attached policy number, and it appears like it will be E6 from my reading of the policies here. It should not be contained in a resolution, because that's just not normal. The resolution is not the policy is the policy. We should be approving the presented policy. With reference to the policy itself, I take issue with section 3. Employees working alone are reminded to take absolutely no risks. Working itself is a risk. We should better define what constitutes a risk. We haven't done that here. An employee could take this to mean that they shouldn't set foot in the equipment, because that does constitute a risk. Should not take any unnecessary risks, should not take unreasonable risks, should not take risks they don't. There should be some language there. This doesn't look like working alone policies I've seen other places. For example, there's very little in the way of getting the work site ready for working alone. When I think to my time with Manitoba Hydro, when we have such an incident, very rarely would we work alone, but certainly if there was to be alone work, we would still have the safety meeting at the beginning to go over the plan for what was to be done. That's not spoken of here. We would still prepare the site so that a passerby could determine how to get us help if we needed help. There would be a lot of additional things. This is a good start, but I don't think it goes far enough. I don't think it does enough to keep our employees safe. But at the same time, it also somewhat suggests, even me coming to the meeting tonight was some level of risk because I drove a vehicle to get here. If they're to take no risk whatsoever, I think we need to better explore that language.
Is Kenville in drafting this, or just the safety committee?
Just the safety committee. We did have nothing to do with it. It's basically
What I would
for the
suggest-
wording.
What I would suggest is either we turn this over to an attorney, we've got the outline, the bones of the program, and let them put in the verbiage.
We might even be able to simply ask the town of Swan River for theirs.
We've looked at
Fine,
other
that's very
policies as
similar.
well.
That could be, we could get from not only the
Might
town,
save
I
us
guess,
some
but
cash.
from any other rural or urban municipality as well. This will be, I think, the second time or third time that we have tabled this. So let's get it right for the next time. I would suggest as Councillor Gade has suggested, let's contact a couple of other municipalities, read theirs.
That's where these came from.
That's where these came from.
Yes. So anyway, we can add to them, we have no problem with that. We want it done right.
There's a couple that are left open, like even for,
The co-op, I know also has expressed their willingness to share policies, so they would probably share their written version with us if that was of help. I'm just thinking, rather than going to an attorney and spending $5,000, if we can get 2 or 3 versions of other people's written ones and see how they express the verbiage.
I can pass that information along. I have not taken the time or will take the time to look at it. The safety committee will work on it. I will pass that information along to them. If you would like to make it you know, I can give them examples of policies, but basically I think what they wanted is a start, some bones to start with, and they will definitely work to improve it, I'm sure, over the next couple of meetings. They haven't had a meeting since we brought it back, so it's been a month and a half, I guess. That's why it's been here 3 times. They've just met.
Everyone in
shared it.
agreement then to table it?
Yeah.
Okay, 7.5, pardon me,
They're all part.
yeah, safety inspection policy. Moved by Councillor Pierrepont, second by Councillor Gade, whereas the members of council for the Municipality of Swan Valley West have reviewed and approved the following new safety inspection policy recommended from the Safety Committee as follows. Municipality of Swan Valley West requires that 4 safety inspections per year be completed and presented to council in order to ensure that safety measures, equipment, buildings, and policies are being followed, reviewed, and updated when and where it is required. These inspections will assist in keeping all entities in compliance with safety regulations. Therefore be it resolved that we do hereby adopt the said policy and shall edit, add, or delete policies from time to time as may be deemed appropriate by the majority vote of council. Questions or comments on this one?
should we, sorry, go ahead.
I could repeat a bunch of it. If you put everything I said about the first one into this one, and then add to it that this should really be fine what a safety inspection is and whose job it is to arrange it, so that it says.
At our last meeting, you told us you didn't want to have the certain person, like, you
I
just
didn't
hired
want you to
me.
say, we will hire so, so I want you to say it is the CAO's responsibility to arrange the inspection in March and June and September and December.
Okay.
Or whatever.
Buy a license.
By a licensed as per procurement policy.
Yeah, that'd be the only thing I'd add, is just so that you can't say that we got an inspection done, then we got Mr. Bobick to do the inspection. We had it done by an actual, like, somebody that's certified by Lions.
Yeah, well, you weren't at the last meeting,
No.
at the last meeting,
Yeah.
Mr. Gade asked it not to have that, so then it was looked at.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't put a name, but I
Anyway.
mean, you still have to have.
I'm just telling you, because you missed the last
Yeah, no,
one.
Are you saying a position, or?
Well, yeah, I don't know what Mr. Lyons is called.
There must be a qualification he has, so that's.
Yeah.
It must be a
To do an
certified
inspection?
safety
Yeah.
something.
Like, we can't perform the inspection. We can't get Bobick to do it, or a grader man, or I want somebody just to say that we're doing
Independent.
it. Yeah, an independent, even
Qualified
as-
individual.
Yeah.
Oh, we kind of
qualified
had that
independent.
on the last one, that was
Okay,
removed.
no, well, that's,
They come back.
Okay,
Oh,
we will
I'm
table this
sorry.
one for
No,
the
that's-
last time as well.
Yeah.
Perhaps when the final additions are made to both of those, they can be brought to council for consideration, not in the form of a resolution.
Yeah, email
we'll
with
just
suggestions.
send them out, yeah.
Yeah,
We'll distribute them, I'll get them distributed before the next meeting for comments.
Moved by Councillor Wills, second by Councillor Gade, whereas the members of council for the Municipality of Swan Valley West have reviewed and approved the new safety gear policy recommended from the Safety Committee as follows. Safety gear policy. The Municipality of Swan Valley West will provide the required safety gear as per Article 18 of the collective agreement. Therefore be it resolved that we do hereby adopt the Municipality of Swan Valley West policies and shall edit, add, or delete policies from time to time as may be deemed appropriate by the majority vote on council. Questions or comments here? Thought we were gonna get away with one.
Or not, you can insert the comments about naming the policy with a number, providing the dating for it, the correct form, etc. And then I would, just curiosity, I don't know the answer, but I'm sure the committee members do. What about people that aren't subject to the collective agreement? Do we provide safety equipment for them, and if so, what? Because the agreement does spell it out very clearly for our agreement-covered workers, but in the case of some of our designated officers that aren't covered by the agreement, I don't know if we provide them safety equipment or not.
Which officers?
Well, I'm thinking like bylaw enforcement, animal control, I'm not sure what else, green team would not be covered by our collective agreement. If there's anything we provide to them or required to provide to them. If it really is so simple as we only have to give the safety gear to union members, so be it. That's great, but I just wonder if it is that simple.
I believe
Okay, well,
it
let's
is.
look at it too.
Yeah,
Let's
there's
look
a-
at it
yeah,
too and
but-
make sure.
Considered contractors.
Is
to,
there any policies written up
couple of
for their jobs that would have that in there? Because I know if you're a grader operator, it's in your policy that you get
Yeah,
so much towards work boots, you know.
That's covered by the agreement, that's what we're talking about.
I know, but I'm just wondering if it's written in a policy for, say, the bylaw enforcement officer. Like, is there a policy written down somewhere
Well, there's a
that
policy.
says he gets it or not, you know?
Policy G1, which was effective May 23rd. Says all employees, this is section 3A, must abide by safe work practices and use appropriate personal protective equipment at all times. There's an annual reimbursement of up to $150 for the purchase of approved safety boots. All other safety equipment shall be purchased by the municipality and supplied to employees as required. Any unsafe equipment, unsafe or hazardous working conditions and incidents or near misses must be reported immediately as one of the following. Has a list here. Regular reports of such matters shall be brought to council. The municipality will adopt and maintain a harassment policy. It deals with safety courses, it deals with seminars and courses. One might go so far as to say that that policy actually completely covers that. Which is good. Hate to see us passing a duplicate.
Do we want to be doing this, James, before in camera or not?
Yeah, we'll do that, yeah.
After in camera? Or before?
Before.
Okay. Any further questions or comments on that?
I guess we're gonna vote, I wanna record a vote, I suggest we table it and see if we really do it. So it might be covered there quite well.
I thought we were just tabling all of them anyways.
This one tabled as well?
Yeah.
Correct format.
Yeah.
Seven point seven. Moved by Councillor Wills, second by Councillor Kushniryk, resolved that the Swan River Fire Department report for September 2020 shall be received by council for the municipality of Swan Valley West. Any questions or comments on the report?
One very quick comment, not only for the Swan River Fire Department, but I know numerous responding fire departments that were out to the Spruce Products Fire. They did an excellent job. That certainly could have been a devastating loss. And to see how little time they actually had to spend on it speaks to the qualification of our fire departments and how good they are at what they do.
Okay, anything further? If not, all in favor? That's carried. Seven point eight, the LED at Benito Fire Department.
This is just a placeholder, no fire calls. So that was us.
There were no fire calls, as we mentioned, believe at the last meeting, they do have a call. They reported that day or the following day.
I appreciate that line, James.
7.9, Durban Community Hall Resolution. Moved by Councillor Kushniryk, second by Councillor Gade, whereas the Durban Community Hall has submitted a request for a beautification grant towards the installation of limestone and edging around the building and front entrance of the Durban Hall. Whereas volunteers on the hall board will supply the labor for this project and costs will be for materials only. Therefore be it resolved that a grant of $1,000 be approved for payment as provided for in the 2021 financial plan. 2021
For
financial
next
plan?
year, yeah. They got one this year approved
Okay, so
last
this
December, so we needed to push it forward and they just gotta know that they're getting it. So it just makes allowance for that in the budget.
So 2019, did they get a grant then as well?
They did, yeah.
Yeah,
So
every,
they got one in 20?
every year.
Yeah, so it's just
So they
basically.
requested twice in 2019 then is what you're saying?
This
The
is
last
for next
request
year, but
being-
they're just ahead of time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they usually put their request in early. I think it's more or less allowance for them in the budget.
Get into the fall and then they know.
They could plan for it, yeah. So it's interesting, it's a good way of doing it, because it's a placeholder, but, so, that's the pattern I've seen. Different, but it works really good.
As long as they're getting that grant each year, I'm happy. And for the look of their financial statements, happy 90th anniversary is in order this year.
Any further comments? Not all in favor? That's carried. Seven point ten, Big Woody Community. Moved by Councillor Gade, second by Councillor Pierrepont, whereas the Big Woody Community Centre has submitted a request for a grant in the amount of $1,000. Therefore be it resolved that a grant of $1,000 be approved by the Municipality of Swan Valley West for payment as requested. Now, is this for 2020?
2020, yes.
Any other questions or comments? Not all in favor? It's carried. Moved by Councillor Wills, second by Councillor Gade, whereas council deems it necessary and in the best interest of the municipality to enact a code of conduct bylaw under the provisions of section 84.1 sub 1 of the Municipal Act. Therefore be it resolved that bylaw number 0083-20, being a bylaw of the Municipality of Swan Valley West to establish and regulate a code of conduct for members of council, be hereby given first reading. Questions, comments?
Well, we've been discussing this by email for a couple of days. So certainly many of you have heard some of my comments on it already.
Is what you'd said. Go ahead, sorry.
I did have an opportunity to speak to Dolores Maximchuk, as Ken recommended today. And I asked her, just as a Coles Notes version, and a lot of people are watching this at home haven't seen those email discussions. The discussion has been whether the council has any leeway on making changes to this bylaw. This is a sample bylaw provided by the Association of Municipalities in conjunction with the province. And there's been some suggestion that we really can't make any changes to it without incurring possible issues. There's also been suggestions of the timeline of when it has to be passed. And there's been some question from me of what's in it. So certainly the province has done a lot of work in upgrading what the code of conduct requires for council members and has given council the option.
All right, would you like to join us? Okay.
if you would.
Yes, you're gonna join the meeting, Ken. Okay, Ken, you're on. Mr. Gade has got a few comments to open the discussion.
I think you can hear me okay, Ken? Not.
Why don't you get him to phone in on that?
I could. Ken, would you like to call in on our conference line? Okay, 1-866. Yeah, 862. Yep, 76 08 08 416 2974. Thank you very much. I just got this email.
Hello?
Hello? Can you hear us?
Just barely, but it's not too bad.
Turn my phones.
I'm going to switch over to speakerphone. Go ahead.
All right, we'll turn it up a little bit. Ken, hopefully you can hear us.
That's a lot better.
Okay, Mr. Gade was going to open with some comments, so he'll yell at you for a while.
We lost a couple members here, so I'll give them a second to return to the chambers. I don't have to repeat it for a third time. Okay, can everyone's back? Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Perfect, thank you. So my opening comments were that we have had a long discussion about this on email, and for those members of the public part of the meeting tonight that haven't been party to that email discussion, it's centered around a couple topics. One is the bylaw itself and a couple changes I've been interested in seeing. And the second part of that is the process for arriving at the bylaw, by which this is a sample that was provided by the AMM/province to us And there's been some suggestion that council really shouldn't make any changes to the bylaw without, at the very least, seeking legal advice, and in some cases just shouldn't make changes at all to what's been presented here. So that's as far as I got when we got you to join the call, so I'm going to carry on from there. So my concern with the process of the bylaw is that we are an autonomous council. Municipalities have worked hard to be an independent level of government. And while we certainly do dance the dance of the province, so as to say, and are required to adhere to certain regulations the province makes for us, the province very rarely prescribes exact wording of bylaws for us. So in this particular case, I did speak to the province, which Ken recommended, and the bylaw as provided is not prescribed by the province as the only bylaw. It is a sample bylaw to which they welcome changes being made. There's only a couple things where changes aren't easily possible, and that is in the section of the bylaw that determines what the sanctions can be. And there's a list of them here, I won't go through them. The province requires that no additional sanctions can be added to that section. Council candidates will choose to not include a sanction. If they felt there would be a reason to strike one from the bylaw, they could remove one and not have it be part of the bylaw, and it wouldn't be an option for this council to impose it in the future. But we're not able to put anything extra in there for censures. The other part of the process that is somewhat cut and dried is the section 11, the appeals process, because council doesn't really run the appeals process, it's run by the province. So even without a section 11 in the bylaw at all, the provincial appeals process would still be the same because it's prescribed by law and by regulation. So any change made in section 11 doesn't make a hill of beans of difference because it's not really our process. Anything else in the bylaw is fair game. So my concerns with the bylaw as written, I don't like the idea that it's a little wishy-washy on council committing to a time frame for some of these sanctions. Certainly some of them have a time frame built in, but there are some of them, for example, removing the member as a chair of a committee, removing this deputy head of council, removing the presiding duties from Reeve, removing from council committees. There's nothing in this bylaw that's written that forces us to put a timeline on it. And I think if we were to take one of those actions, it would be reprehensible for us to not put a timeline on it. For fairness to whoever the person is that's subject to sanction, they should have the ability to know how long their punishment is. As a form of natural justice, we don't have a sentence in courts that is, we sentence you to jail until we feel like letting you out. We must put on it, we sentence you to jail for 30 days, or 60 days, or 100 days, or 4 years. If we feel the violation is egregious enough, we could sentence someone to 4 years off committees. But we would find that natural justice causes us to have to put some sort of term in there. I'd like to see that enshrined in the bylaw. There is an issue with the bylaws presented tonight. This is not the version that we talked about most recently. In 8.20, there's a mistake in the bylaw. In the second line, third word, the word mediator can't be there. It actually has to be investigator. So that needs to be updated in this bylaw. That was a mistake that came out from the province and was since corrected from what my understanding is. My other large concern with this is the scope of the bylaw. I find concern with how a complaint is created. So as written, to have a complaint, only a council member may file a complaint. So if, for example, a member of council breaches the code of conduct, but not with another council member, this whole process in our version of the bylaw doesn't have a starting point. That's very appealing to people. In the provincial version of this, there is no limitation that it be a council member. We could choose to have this open to any person. We could say any voter. We could say a variety of things other than council member. Personally, I would like to see it be available to any person, period. And I think of a scenario where this might make a big difference, and in many of them it wouldn't, but I would hope, I'm going to use James for example here, if I attend James's office someday and I say some things that really were inappropriate, Maybe they were of a sexual nature, and he felt that he had been sexually harassed by me. That could take many forms. As written, James doesn't have the ability to bring a complaint against me. James would instead have to go to a member of council and convince a member of council to bring a complaint on his behalf. And that would be so with any employee or any member of the public. So if a member of public had a strong concern that a member of council had done something that broke this code of conduct, they would be unable to pursue it unless they were to get through essentially what we've set out as a gatekeeper, which is a council member. So we would have to have them shop council members until they found a council member that was willing to bring a complaint forward. And I don't think that's a bar we should be imposing on people. The actions in here are not small actions. These are things that constitute gross violations of what we should be doing as members of council. Whether it's harassment or sexual harassment or inappropriate use of municipal facilities and employees and actions. I would hate to see us limit who can file that complaint, because to me, there would be many times when it would be more advantageous for the complainant themselves to be able to come forward. I think back not that long ago to a former acting chief administrative officer who did come forward with a complaint to me about a member of council. And because of that gatekeeping that we had in place at the time, the complaint was never adjudicated. And it should have been. And I would hate to see us have a situation like that again, where a valid complaint is kept from going through what is set out to be a rather fair process for council. So I'd like to see us make changes there. I'd like to see the changes made for committing in writing here that we will prescribe a limit to punishments if we prescribe a punishment, so they're not just never-ending punishments that go on until the will of council changes. And obviously the nitpicky 2-0 change needs to be made, because that section of the bylaw doesn't make sense until you change that word to investigator. And I would like to request a recorded vote on this tonight.
Any other questions or comments? It's going to be recorded.
No, other than the claim that you state was brought to you by that CIO, when she came to me, said she never made that complaint and she wished to have it dismissed. That's part of the reason why I never came any farther.
Certainly, this may not be the appropriate venue for that, but if we're going to bring it up anyway, any suggestion of a complaint like that should have gone to someone independent, so it wasn't either member of council making the ultimate decision. Because that's, the process we're trying to list here is having that impartiality of it not becoming a he said, she said, one council member versus another council member, taking this really out of council's hands, and not having one council member have to come and say, well, I wish to make a complaint about another council member on the basis of what that person said. Rather, having that person make the complaint themselves. If they wish to make a complaint, they could directly make the complaint.
She came to me and said that she never made a complaint. That you were doing that without her consent, that's why.
But
So,
do you agree then that it would be better if the person making a complaint could do so themselves rather than having it filtered to a council member?
no, I think it should go through council.
I strongly disagree, because I don't think that we should, the whole point of this process is council shouldn't be the gatekeeper of the complaint. Council shouldn't have the ability to say that complaint doesn't count. If somebody makes a complaint, there should be a complaint. And to provide the clarity of not having it go through a council member would prevent any personal bias from any member of council, myself, anybody, of saying it is a complaint, it isn't a complaint. It would be cut and dried. The complaint would be submitted to the CAO. If it was submitted to the CAO, it's a complaint. If it's not submitted to the CAO, it's not a complaint.
I disagree, so we'll just vote and.
Any other questions or comments?
If I could interject for a moment,
Go ahead.
CAO perspective, this bylaw was a long time coming from the information that I've been able to glean from municipal services officers. Council has to realize this is a brand new bylaw, brand new times. This is something to address as the bylaw states, mullaying and whatnot within council. It's a second draft. It was put together by a law team. It has received a great in-depth review by the AMM, who have considered the very points that Councillor Gade brought up tonight. I'm not going to sit here and say one's right or one's wrong. All I'm going to give you is the provincial perspective. They want to see this bylaw go through as is. They want councils to work with it, and this just isn't provincial perspective. This is also the AMM, of which, if you'll recall, some 3 years ago, this municipality, I understand, co-sponsored a resolution to that effect. So it is brand new. It has some far-reaching, as Councillor Gade pointed out, some far-reaching ramifications. The gist I get from the province is that they want it to go through the way it is. If there's issues that come up, we'll have to deal with the AMM and the province to have those issues either resolved to a council or councillor satisfaction or not. I'm not in a position, as I stated earlier in an email, to say how that's going to work out. But pretty much the information I have is that the government wants this to proceed as the revised draft has been presented to council tonight. I'm not going to suggest that I have the authority, certainly, to tell council not to change it. That's not the case. I'm just putting forward the province and AMM's perspective on it. And that's basically all the comments I can give you, is that everybody's going to have to work with this bylaw. It's, as I indicated earlier, it's brand new. It's going to have to be worked with, see how things work out, and that's all I can conclude.
Okay, thank you very much. You ready for the question?
Follow up to that. I just want to quote Ken in an email. This is from Dolores Maximchuk. She's the Municipal Services Officer, as you know, that's charged with fielding the questions on this bylaw. She said, "Good afternoon, Bill. I'll leave out some here of the welcomes and salutations. I guess the meat and potatoes. All councils are encouraged to review and strengthen the sample bylaw as required to ensure it meets the specific needs of the municipality. For example, council may consider strengthening the rules of conduct to address specific issues or expanding the complaints procedures outlined." So I would specifically say that while I'm respectful of your opinion, Ken, I don't think it's the AMM nor the province's role to tell us what our bylaw has to say, and hear from the province themselves is them saying that we are welcome to make those changes to it. So I just state for the record my complete disagreement with our thought that we have to pass this as is, and that that's the province's view, because I have in writing from the province that is not their view, that we are welcome to make changes and strengthen it, and certainly some of my suggestions are to strengthen it. Thank you.
This is first reading, obviously changes can be made prior to second and third final reading. You ready for the question? Okay, we have had a recorded vote requested. Councillor Blosha.
Yes.
Councillor Foster. Councillor Gade.
No.
Councillor Wells.
Yes.
Councillor Kushniryk.
Yes.
Councillor Pierrepont.
Yes.
And myself is a yes. Okay, the motion carried, 7-1. Or 6-1, pardon me. Okay, 7.12, RCMP report. Moved by Councillor Gade, second by Councillor Wills. Resolved that the RCMP reports from both Swan River and Benito for July 1st to September 30th, 2020 shall be received by the Council for the Municipality of Swan Valley West. You have the reports there. Questions or comments? Not all in favor? That is carried. Okay, we'll go into number 8, finance. Next one. Staff files. Not able to pass with.
That check in. We'll wait until after.
Moved by Councillor Gade, second by Councillor Foster, resolved that the Council for the Municipality of Swan Valley West does hereby approve the following payments. General checks number 16393 to 16436 in the amount of $125,516.19 for a grand total of $125,516.19. Any questions on any of them? You ready for the question? All in favor?
The one question I had, we've not approved the, Mr. Rose or the animal control yet.
The animal control, oh yeah,
They're not in here though, right?
Yeah, they are.
Are they both in here?
Yeah.
They're not in the employee?
no, those are contracted. The rural is in the payroll. But, the 7.2 includes rural and urban.
Okay, can we delay this then until after?
Table till the end of the meeting?
As long as we get back to it so that everybody gets paid. Make sure our employees get paid.
It's in the paper.
Moved by Councillor Wills, second by Councillor Kushniryk, resolved that Council for the Municipality of Swan Valley West does hereby approve the following payments. Payroll payments, checks numbers 3323 to 3336 in the amount of $19,653.43 for a grand total of $19,653.43. Questions on that? If not, all in favor? That's carried. Moved by Councillor Pierrepont, second by Councillor Blosha, resolved that the Council for the Municipality of Swan Valley West does hereby approve the following payments. Indemnities for September in the amount of $10,700 for a grand total of $10,700. Questions or comments?
Just mine and Carrie's there, you just gotta get them, they're switched around on this one page there. Carrie's is under mine and just on the,
Oh, sorry,
on
okay.
8.3, see this one here, it's just this one. So that's mine.
Oh, on the cover page.
Yeah, I'm just saying, it's just a,
Okay, we'll switch that around.
yeah.
Okay, if there's nothing further, all in favor? That's carried. Nine, discussion. Letter from the town of Swan River regarding rural water.
Set up a meeting with them.
Do we have a letter from the town of Swan River?
Yeah. Maybe it's on the other side.
It starts on the other side, yep.
Oh,
Flip it over. Ken, are you still with us?
Yeah. I'm just gonna say if I'm not needed, I'll sign off now.
All right, thanks, Ken.
Okay, thanks all. Have a good evening.
Okay.
Thanks, Ken.
fine, thanks, Ken.
Okay, let's see if we can get an agreeable date set to meet with some members of the town council.
So they specifically asked for us to send them a letter first. So would it maybe
And arrange those dates by telephone and then confirm it in the form of a letter.
the letter they're asking for is not to confirm the date. The letter they're asking for is to receive written correspondence prior to the meeting to facilitate healthy discussion. So they're looking for our ideas and our concerns on this in writing, so they have time to discuss it before we're there. So certainly we've known about this since April. I believe I've suggested at this table, I admit, I've lost count of the number of times I've suggested we deal with this, and we have done nothing yet until they sent another letter. From reading their letter, some of these things, it would appear they don't recall the history of the current water plant. The current expansion they already have was conducted in part to facilitate this rural water. And they have far more capacity sitting empty than they're suggesting we would use here in their existing plant. The fees at which they're suggesting we would consume the water equate to $273,000 a year. On a 25-year debenture, that would give us $6.8 million to construct our own water treatment plant, which in this letter they're suggesting we construct one just without the water treatment part, but with our own pumping infrastructure and a reservoir the same as any water treatment plant. So the difference in cost from pumping our own water out of the ground at the head end compared to buying the water from them at this point would probably be half of what they're suggesting they charge. And things like that, I think it would be good for us to point out in a letter ahead of time so we don't sideswipe them with that in a meeting. Because I can assure you that what the town will say is, well, thank you for telling us, we'll think about it, let's have another meeting. So if we send it in writing first, they might be prepared to actually discuss those things rather than being surprised to hear them from us. kind of give some input of what our concerns would be. So,
There's a committee struck on the committee list or not.
there is.
Yes.
No.
Okay.
Handled.
Okay.
Because it's over 50% of the rest of the water plant. So anytime they wanna expand, they're gonna hit the bill to us.
And a lot of that's dealt with in the study we have already. To remind them of it.
Yeah, because there is more capacity than
Oh, yeah,
we
that's,
could use there.
yeah. They knew when we were doing it before that
Oh, and
they,
they did their upgrades,
Yeah.
they allowed for
Yeah.
it, so.
Okay, summary of inspection from the province, September 22nd.
I actually think you guys all read this at our last meeting, if I'm correct, but. Maybe not. Did we miss it? Was it after then?
Well, 22nd, so it came the day of. So maybe.
Oh, that's probably why you didn't see it. Okay, no, I saw it, so. But maybe everybody.
Safety committee.
So actually, so the things on there that need to be worked on, we're working on it.
yeah,
It's just, and we worked on it together tonight. I think.
Oh, so we did much better than previous inspections.
Oh,
In
and
the
yeah,
right direction.
They need,
No, we're
fire
getting-
extinguishers need to be installed monthly.
no, initialed.
Oh.
Initialed so that they would know they were checked.
Just from staff, somebody said
And-
they looked at it. It's
Oh,
good.
okay. Yeah, I was gonna say. 'cause
Yeah, so
They're
they
not
looked at it.
required to,
Pressure triggers.
No, not to check them,
not
just,
to have Brent in there every month to check, no.
Just make sure they're not sitting empty.
or
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah,
Or use,
missing.
yeah.
Okay, 9.3, update on Crestview Bridge.
I brought that forward, I'm just wondering where we're at. Because there was an accident on that bridge with a combine. He hit the hole that you can see through to the bottom, and the head fell off and he ran over it.
How big was the hole?
The hole's about that big.
And this was on what combine? What make?
John Deere.
With duals?
No, I don't believe his has duals.
It's not a track machine?
No.
They are very rough again right now, and you can't really avoid them because they're staggered.
Yeah, there's about 4 of them there.
Yeah.
That was on the Aggies.
That's what I was wondering.
Well, to have a header bounce off,
I know, I'm just bringing it to council because I ran into him and this is what he told me. He was having a very bad week that week and that's his 5th combine and he went over the bridge and hit a bump and the header fell off. Now whether it was on the trailer, I don't know how you'd run over it if it was on a trailer,
no, it would have been on.
but it'd have to be on the combine. So, but I know those holes are getting bigger all the time, so.
What is the latest on from?
We've got one quote, and the second one will be here within 2 weeks. So at that point, we'll start making decisions on going forward and winter work.
Yeah, no, and I just asked James just to bring it forward so that, because that bridge is getting worse and right away it's gonna be to where it's gonna need to be severely restricted because,
Well, there could easily be a sign put up right now to slow down or whatever, like, you can't go over.
well, there's 50 signs there now.
Yeah.
But I would suggest like a bump sign or something. Put a bump at the top of the hill so that after a couple times, because I've met big trucks on that road, they do not slow down.
No, unfortunately. We talked about putting traffic calming devices down even. And maybe that's what a person has to go to. in the
Because
end.
that's a very highly traveled road.
But to cover our liability issue, there should be a sign put up that either a slow to a certain speed limit and or maybe both even, a bump sign.
Well, I'd say there's a 50 there on each side, the top of the hill.
I'm talking less than 50.
Well, I was thinking 30, but with the bump sign so that people know, because it's getting worse. It's getting pounded out every day.
Well, thankfully harvest should almost be completed.
Yeah, but it's not the harvest.
Yeah, well,
It's the big trucks.
combines and
Well, the
trucks.
combines, but now the B trains are going over there steady, so. I just don't wanna see
We put
somebody get
restrictions
hurt.
on it.
That's my concern.
They're doing no one any favor. Every time they overload and go over it too fast, they're making the bridge more expensive to repair.
Well, and that bridge was, I mean, in the spring, it wasn't that bad. Now it's getting pounded, like Matt said, there's about 4 holes, and they're staggered, so I mean, you can't even say you hit one track, that you'll miss them.
Almost impossible to miss them all.
Have we been conducting the inspections on it, the engineer asked us to?
The engineer asked us to conduct inspections.
Documentation we had, they suggested we should be checking it substantially often for issues like this.
Yes, we have been.
Well, Bobick's been out there, at one time there was a couple traffic cones at the top of the hill, but they're gone now. There was at one time a barricade there, cause it was pretty soft on the bridge just with in the spring, but those have all since gone. There's just a speed sign there now.
I would mention it to try and get the grader out there too, to get it gone over again, but it just doesn't last long right now. It comes out and the next day it's probably,
But you're saying you can actually see through it, some of them goes
one of
under
them
that.
can, yeah.
So that's, you have to fill it no matter what.
Well,
Well,
you'd have to peel it back and put a steel plate in there.
Yeah, I gotta stop and look at it to see what, because before you can bridge it and you can cover it, but I don't know now.
Yeah, you could peel it back, put a steel plate on there and then fill it with gravel again, at least it would hold, but.
And we've done that a couple of times in the past too.
The thing is, there's a difference between a pounded out pothole and a hole in the bridge. And the hole in the bridge, we need to do something
There's a hole
more
in the bridge.
substantial, throw some gravel on it. We can't very well have the public traveling on a bridge they put their trailer through, especially if it's a smaller vehicle.
And there's one there, it's probably that particular one that we did it just right. It's-
Rather than putting gravel, we could get some cold mix and heat it up with a tiger torch, and that would last a whole lot longer after you
Yeah.
put a plate down.
Yeah, but it's something we're gonna have to deal with sooner than later,
Yeah.
or somebody gets hurt.
That's been tried in the past, in the last 1 month.
The cold.
You could look at speed bumps. You have to put them far enough back that it didn't make it still be bouncing when it hit the bridge, but it would slow people down.
Well, there's a hill, like that bridge is right at the bottom, and that hill, if you had them on top of that hill, by the time they get over that and down, the problem is they get to the top of the hill, and then all of a sudden the bridge is there, and they're not slowing down. They're trying to slow down going down the hill.
The other issue is depending on who's coming down that hill, they see something like that, they might freak out. I know a person years ago that used to have a crossing on that hill. She hit it scared her, she hit her brakes and she ended up upside down on the east side of the hill.
Well, you go to the one in Bonito there in the winter and drive that one on that one.
Well, that-
My wife hit that at 90K once.
Me too.
I was honking and flashing lights, she wasn't paying attention.
I forgot one day I hit that thing at about 90. And I was going uphill, good thing, because you go for a ride.
Okay, let's move on, time is moving on. 9.4, council discussion.
So we started discussing this a little bit last meeting. James asked me to bring it forward onto the agenda this time rather than discussing it off the agenda before. So I want to present the question to council. It's been almost a year now that I've been removed from all the committees. So we're coming up to a new code of conduct era, November 1st. At the time we did that, while it was discussed there was punishment for actions I'd taken, we didn't discuss an end date or any sort of plan for what we were doing. So I was curious to hear a commentary from council about what we thought we should do about that. If it is an end date, if it's meant to be for the entire term, I'd like some clarity on what the plan is, so I know for myself what to expect.
From my point of view, that should be discussed in camera.
And I'm certainly welcome to have it, like, it revolves around me, and so I don't mind it being discussed in open. If you would rather in camera, you can, but I'm fine with it being discussed in open, because certainly, you know, it's been the subject of much discussion in many places, and I think many people would like to know the answer to what the plan is.
Okay. Correspondence 10.1, thank you cards.
Got one from Don and Cindy Bobick for flowers, and one from Carrie and Glen for flowers. Letters from Dauphin's City Hall, provision for remote learning. You all have a letter there asking for our support for remote learning modules.
I would like to see us bring, they're asking for a resolution, I presume, to go.
Just support.
Can we do whatever we have to do to support them, because it certainly is important for some of our residents to have that available. If it's a letter or whatever, we need to send them just to help them in their way.
Okay. 10.3, certificate of appreciation received, as well as volume 11 of the military service recognition book.
Just information. And then the watershed.
Okay, with respect to the watershed, some of you, or maybe all of you, have heard that Councillor Kushniryk from Montona's Bozeman is quite ill. So I would ask that any who believe to keep him and his recovery and his family in our thoughts and prayers.
When did this come along?
Pardon?
Just recently?
Apparently he is now in politics there.
I said I was just talking to him a month ago.
Yeah, it was very, very quick.
Oh, really?
It just reminds us
Yeah, really.
how fragile life really is. Okay, we'll go into committee reports. Councillor Gade, do you have anything?
As you know, I don't attend a lot of committees. I've spoken to it before a little bit, but certainly it would be good for our committee reports to include things other than just a list of committees we're at. If we're able to include just a little detail of what the committee's up to, it certainly helps keep us all on the same page, so we know that progress is indeed progressing in our wonderful valley. As far as communications go, the number of ratepayer contacts continues to increase, which I'm glad. I think the more times that a taxpayer is able to communicate with councillors, the better. I hope everybody else is having the same feeling that we get to talk to lots of people. James has been instrumental in taking many of those things that are communicated. I bring them to him because he's essentially acting as the guy for those things, whether he likes it or not. But he's been very good at forwarding it along through the staff and making sure things are taken care of, which makes my job easier.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Wills?
I don't think I've attended anything since last time we met.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Foster?
Do we have a transportation meeting after the last meeting? No. I think we got the road done out there. Had lots of compliments on it there. The stones are out. It's gravelled. Looks good. Looks real good. That Ripper Scarefire worked real good. They're happy with it.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Kushniryk?
Okay, a couple of things, kind of following up on what Glen was saying about the Ripper. Dawn phoned me today. He's looking to do
They're
some.
doing it.
Okay, good. So don't have to worry about that. I did attend, the RISE meeting. And then I've also been in communications with strategic alarm systems. This is kind of going back to the GPS issue that we've been dealing with. So they've got a guy coming up this way on the 19th. He's going to be doing some service work on our fuel trucks. And I've asked him to perhaps look at our graders and see what they can offer for services for us, starting with simply just the graders. But it's all custom built, so whatever we want, that's what we get. We don't get any extra frills or nothing that we didn't intend on paying for. So I just wanted to keep you in the loop on that and let you know where we're at, hopefully before next week, before next meeting. See if we can get maybe a quote or a price quote we're looking at.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Blosha.
I had a health foundation meeting and we heard the audit, and as you all heard, we're missing a member. We talked about doctor recruitment funds a little bit, and we want to be at a G5 and talk about it all together and see what all the municipalities want to do moving forward with doctor recruitment monies. No, the CT scanner wasn't. We all know the CT scanner we had. We have letters and resolutions from all the. No, we didn't put that through yet. We won't be putting it through until the monies are needed.
Yeah.
But it's there, and that's what it is. But no, we just want to see what everybody wants to do moving forward, because we have ideas, but we need to talk as all the councils.
Are we having a G5 for that?
I have no idea. I'm just saying we need to talk about things like that together as a whole. So that's all. That's the only meeting I had since.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Pierrepont.
I had no meetings this last 2 weeks. Mine have been cancelled till next week. So.
Okay, as far as myself, I attended virtually AGM of Mental Health Association, and it was a relatively short meeting, but they are doing well, even in this time of COVID. We also had a RISE meeting, met with the new EDO, and she still continues to impress. So I hope over the next few months there's actually some evidence of the fruit of her labors that come forward, because it would definitely reflect the amount of effort and time and so on that she's putting into it. With respect to the G4, I was in conversation with the mayor, part of which I'll share with you in camera on a different subject, but with respect to G4, they had been communicating with Mountain, and Mountain seemed prepared to host the meeting on November 2nd. Now, that wasn't a date set in stone, it was only a suggested date, and they were going to communicate back and forth, so I would look forward, hopefully, to some sort of communication from Mountain with respect to the G4, and if we don't hear it within a week, then it might be a good idea just to give them a dingle and see if they are still going ahead with that thing, because there are a number of issues that have to be discussed. With respect to the road that Councillor Kushniryk was referring to, our rural lead hand, called and asked about a half mile of road south of the New Holland dealership there that they were using and really beat up with the rock trucks when they were rebuilding 10. And I guess hauled in all kinds of material, but it was all pit run. So some stones are evident, and while the ripper is on there, or the scare fire, he wants to do that. He figures it should be done in a day or a day and a half. And they are absolutely blown away by how good that thing works. So sometimes we form opinions of things and figure they won't work, or maybe look at getting a piddly little one that mounted on the front, but there's nothing like the real thing. And when they take it off, they will leave the undercarriage on, obviously. And it's a matter of half an hour or so to unhook and hook back up in the event that they need it. But so the guys aren't bumping themselves, they're going to be taking it off. And that is what's been happening in my world, along with a lot of phone calls, obviously. James?
Did we have Matt?
Yes, we did. He didn't have anything.
I can't believe you missed that, James.
I can't either. I think I wrote it, it was a ditto to Darryl, so. And that's the same for me, ditto. No meetings. Just a lot of questions.
So does that come that time of meeting where we will be going in camera, so we will take a 10-minute recess to allow the disassembly of the video, etc. And we will reconvene.
Do you want to pass this resolution?
You can ask.
No?
Oh, yes, we can pass that resolution first.
And then you're gonna ask for comments? Great. Do you want me to read that?
You've printed it, so I should be able to. Moved by Councillor Foster, second by Councillor Gade, resolved that we do hereby accept the following verbal reports regarding council committees and communications. Councillor Kushniryk, road work will be done. Rise meeting, GPS company can look at our equipment to quote. Councillor Blosha, Health Foundation audit and recruitment. Councillor Wills, no meetings. Councillor Pierrepont, no meetings. Councillor Gade would like details on reports, repairs, requests. Councillor Foster, Road 198, pardon me, is very good. Myself, AGM Mental Health, Rise meeting, new EDO, G4 Mountain could host November 2nd, it's proposed. Road work half-mile south of Mazers can be repaired. And James had no meetings to report. Questions or comments? Not all in favor? That's carried. Okay, I have been reminded that it is time for anyone in the audience or on the telephone, if they have a comment or a question, to pose it now.
It's been a long meeting, so I think you guys all want to get your break. Just remember, it takes a long time to solve the dog problem. Been there, done that. I think it was 7 years in my world. Good night, everybody. Have a good break.
Jeremy has his hand up as well.
In the discussed bylaw this evening, was there any reference in the content of the bylaw of whether it would take effect after November 1st?
It's supposed to be effective November 1st. That's what's proposed. I guess some municipalities had no code of conduct bylaw or anti-bullying bylaw. And the AMM was hounded by a number of municipalities over the last number of years to persuade the province to do updated regulations. And so that's the result of what we have now. And it broadens the scope of the sanctions that can be put upon an individual who breaks the code as such. And of course, there's always going to be debate whether it's enough or it's too much or whatever. But we have to come to some sort of consensus, and knowing this council, there's level heads at it, so I'm sure that we'll come to a successful conclusion on it.
This is a note for November 1st as a mention.
Okay.
We can't possibly have it passed until the last meeting before.
There's an email that just came, that should be effective.
Yeah, it's on camera.
It needs to be dealt with tonight.
Yeah.
It just
It
came,
will.
so, okay,
Uploaded.
you saw it then.
Okay, we will call
I'm
a
very
10-minute
sure.
recess.
I don't know how far it goes.
Moved by Councillor Kushniryk, second by Councillor Wills. Resolved that pursuant to section 152 sub 3 of the Municipal Act, the council as a whole shall go into camera and close the meeting to continue discussions regarding Bylaw enforcement officer report, employee matters, ratepayer request, road allowance access, and bylaw info. All in favor? That is carried. Moved by Councillor Pierrepont, seconded by Councillor Blosha. Resolved that in accordance with clause 8.5 of bylaw number 002-15, the council shall extend the curfew by up to 1/2 hour in order to complete discussions regarding agenda items. Questions or comments on this? Not all in favor? It's carried.
Everybody's backing up, I don't think you're gonna get many proposals.
Moved by Councillor Blosha, second by Councillor Pierrepont, resolved that the bylaw enforcement officer's report for September 2020 shall be received by the council for the municipality of Swan Valley West. All in favor? It's carried. Moved by Councillor Will, second by Councillor Pierrepont, resolved that the following animal control reports shall be received by the council for the municipality of Swan Valley West. The Rural Animal Control Officer's report for the month of September 2020, the Urban Animal Control Officer's report for the month of September 2020. Be it further resolved that payment for the above services shall be approved as submitted. Questions or comments? If not, all in favor?
Just no more drive-arounds.
We will talk further about that bylaw officer next meeting, because what we need to deal with is going forward after January 1st, how much do we want him to do? It's gonna be winter time. He's gotta know ahead of time how many hours he's gonna get monthly at that time. So that'll be next
Possible.
That'll be next time.
We have to do general checks as well. Oh, good.
Moved by Councillor Gade, second by Councillor Foster, resolved that the council for the municipality of Swan Valley West is hereby approve the following payments. General checks number 16393 to 16436 in the amount of $125,516.19. For a grand total of $125,516.19. Go ahead.
Sorry, James.
Overall, get out of time. That doesn't matter. I'm in such a rush to get out of here.
We talked about the Pierrepont Community Hall. We approved their grant request, but we said it's for next year. But in here, we're paying them $1,000 tonight. So
From last year.
From last year.
Funny thing, that was, and if you look, where is that? It's attached to the check. I had pulled the resolution from November of 19 to pay in 2020 budget. So it is attached there, I can run and get it.
So we didn't write him a check yet this year?
No, this is the first one.
Okay.
This is one of those catch-up things.
I saw
But
that
that,
too.
yeah, that says for next year.
And this next
this
one,
just our resolutions, because this said, please send us our 2020 money, and here is the 2020 money going. So to them, it looks like they sent the letter, they get this check, everything is good. But we, for some reason, think we're a year ahead. Because they're going to get the $1,000 check, and assume that because they said this asking for 2020, here's the $1,000, everything's good.
Yeah, and read how it
But
reads.
what our resolution said was,
Read how it
2021.
reads there too.
it's the grant for 2021, and we're paying it out already. So under here it says 2021 grant.
not, there says 2021?
Yes.
Here it says 2021 grant.
That's why we're questioning it.
I didn't type that, I didn't type those in.
That's what it says.
Son of a gun, because we were talking about, we made the same mistake then in the office, because we were talking about both of them, and we had to try to keep them separate, the resolution and the check, and so I could change that on their check before it goes out.
Yeah, because it says that.
Yeah.
Yeah, as long as they're not getting a second check for $1,000
We're not too good.
for this year,
That's
we're
right.
okay.
And if they need to know that they have that money to get grants for next year, I have no
Okay,
problem.
one at a time.
Okay.
Okay, I'm done.
You done?
Yep.
Any further concerns?
Sorry about that. That is definitely what happened because we were talking both. So why is this check? No, keep it separate. Obviously, it was typed in wrong.
Okay, call the question, all in favor? It's carried. Moved by Councillor Foster, second by Councillor Kushniryk, resolved that this meeting shall now adjourn 11:16 PM.
I like
Be it further resolved, next meeting is Tuesday, October 27th, 2020 at 7 PM. All in favor?